Here are three insights that I got from Charlie Munger from listening to him speak at the 2020 Daily Journal annual meeting today. Hi, my name is Gary Mishuris. I'm the managing partner and chief investment officer of Silver Ring Value Partners. I also teach the value investing seminar at the FW Olin Graduate School of Business. So Charlie Munger is, definitely a quirky guy. He's Warren Buffett's longtime partner, and he definitely doesn't mince words. He says it like it is, and he doesn't care who he offends or whatnot. So today there were a bunch of things he said. A number of them were kind of repeats from old things. After all, there's only so much wisdom anyone can have. But there were three things that really kind of stood out to me that I wanted to share with you guys. The first is that he thought that the stock market today is not at some kind of bubble like it was in the Nifty 50 in the 60s or in the tech bubble in the late 1990s. And he made a point that essentially, if you look at the most highly valued companies today versus during those two different time periods, that these were real companies today and they had real profits and they weren't going away. And he thought that was structurally different from the 1960s. No, at the same time, Charlie did mention, and I agree with this, is that the credit markets are, to put it mildly, confusing. And to me, they look a lot more like the excessive levels of a bubble, because after all, how can it make sense to pay the government, like as you're doing in parts of Europe, in order to get their bonds? That makes no sense to me. So I think that Charlie's point is well taken. The markets are optimistic, they're expensive, but they're certainly not in the bubble in the equity markets. That was the first thing. The second thing that I came away with is that he talked about how moats or the competitive advantages of companies are being destroyed at a faster pace today by technology and innovation and new business models being born. I think that's important because I think if you're a value investing practitioner and you have a very kind of static view of value investing, so let's say you kind of read Security Analysis by Ben Graham, and your approach is you're going to look at historical financials. You're going to more or less assume that the future looks like the past, and you're going to buy stocks at a cheap multiple of historical profits. I think the fact that the pace of change is picking up is an important indicator that that's not enough. It's not to say that you shouldn't do those things, but it's a starting point rather than a finish point where you're starting with something where it might be cheap on historical financials, but you really got to think about the business from first principles and really guard against adverse change. And by the way, Graham recommended it as well, but I think it's particularly important if the pace of a change is accelerating and businesses that used to be good and predictable might be less so going forward in a shorter amount of time than that had been the case in the past. So that's the second thing. And the third thing is he reminded us of his idea of inverting. So the way inverting works is if you want to figure out what to do, you instead figure out how to achieve the opposite outcome. So for instance, in investing, this might look like this. You obviously, if you're investing, you want to make money and hopefully a lot of money. But rather than trying to figure out how to make a lot of money in investing, you try to figure out how do you lose money in investing. So if you got up this morning and said, how do I lose the most money in investing? And you figured that out, then the way you would answer the question of how to make money in investing is just avoid doing those things, right? So that's pretty intuitive. And I think one way to think about the answer to that question is if you want to lose the most money in investing, you buy bad businesses at expensive prices with weak balance sheets managed by incompetent or dishonest managers. And if you do all those things, you're pretty likely to lose some money. And so I think conversely, if you want to have good investing results, if you avoid those four attributes of investments, you're probably going to do better than if you don't. Anyway, those are the three things I got from Charlie Munger today at the Daily Journal annual meeting. Hope this was helpful to you guys. If you like this video, please hit like and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thank you.